Hello everyone, I am Hardik Panchal, Manager Domain and Consultancy, and I have with me Tapas Ruparelia, AVP Domain and Consulting. The last time we met, we discussed on GST 2.0, our thoughts on the recommendation given by the GST Council and how it will impact the taxpayer. Much of it has been notified and are in place right now, while there has been few hiccups in the implementation where we are seeing that the industry has not passed on the benefit of rate reduction. On the other hand, we have majority of the company passing on the benefits and reducing the pricing, as a result of which the Indian consumer economy saw a decade high Navratri sale. Over and above this, most awaited was Goods and Services Tax Appellate Tribunal, which was long due. The GSTAT or the GSTAT is India's dedicated forum to unclog GST dispute and bring consistency to the rulings. Think of GSTAT as a middle step between the first appellate stage and the High Court. That's good news for the certainty and speed, but it also means process and timing matter more than ever. On that note, Tapas, what is GSTAT and when to appeal and where to appeal?
Thanks, Hardik, for asking these questions. So, GST Appellate Tribunal is a second appellate authority under the GST law. Now, when I say a second appellate authority, where does it stand in the entire frame of the GST litigation structure is that, say you have done all your compliances under GST, you have filed your returns, etc. Now, when the department scrutinizes your return or comes to you for an audit and they find some irregularity and they issue a show cause notice to you, you have to respond to that notice. Considering that reply, they pass an order. After they pass an order, you have a chance to file an appeal if you are not satisfied with this order. Where this appeal lies is the first appellate authority, which is again a department employee, a deputy commissioner or a joint commissioner or probably a commissioner, and this varies based on whether it's a central authority or the state authority under GST. When this appellate authority passes an order, if you are still not satisfied, you can file an appeal before the GST Appellate Tribunal. This is the first independent body under the GST appellate scheme of things. Look at it like a district court. You can consider it similar to a district court where you can file an appeal. The decisions which come in from the tribunals are more consistent and more independent because they are actually not the employees of the government. So under GST, you have multiple benches. The principal bench is situated at New Delhi, and then you have different benches spread across the states. Under the service tax excise law, when there was a central customs excise service tax appellate tribunal, there were a limited number of benches and there were not all states also had benches. So for example, there was only one bench in the state of Gujarat. So even if you were, say, in the city of Rajkot and you wanted to file an appeal before the tribunal that was applicable to you was Ahmedabad. Now under GST, there are different state benches spread across different cities across India. So Gujarat also has a more number of benches, and the city nearest to you, you would be required to file an appeal there. So the entire structure, to summarize, is that the GST Appellate Tribunal is the first independent authority under the GST law which would adjudicate the appeals that you file. It would be independent, so you would get consistent orders from the appellate tribunal. Also, if at all there is a dispute or a sort of conflict between orders of different benches of the tribunal, then the appeals lie before the central bench of the GST Appellate Tribunal, that is in New Delhi. That's how the entire structure of the GSTAT is.
Thank you, Tapas. So they are late, but they have better provision at this time. And GST as a whole, we have seen from the starting that they want to digitize everything, right? They want to do it everything. So how are the appeals going to be filed online? What is the procedure to file an appeal under GSTAT?
So what they've done is, of course, yes, the GST law, since it has been introduced, they have envisaged that everything is going to be technologically enabled. All the filings, etc., have to be done online. Similarly, for tribunal, also what they have said is the appeals will have to be filed online. Now they have bunched different matters into different tranches. The tribunal is going to be, it is actually functional now. The appeals have commenced, the filing of appeals have commenced onto the tribunal's portal. What they have done is similar to, say, for an example, boarding a flight, where you where all the passengers are called into the different based on their zones that they have been allotted. Similar to that, they have given different tranches for filing appeals. So let's say an order was passed, say on or before 31st of January 2022. The tranche that has been given is 24th September till October 31st October 2025. That is the first tranche. Similarly, 1st February 2022 till February 28, 2023. Between this 13 months, if any order has been passed, then the appeal should be filed between 1st of November 2025 till 30th of November 2025, so on and so forth. So if if an order has been passed, say by 31st of March 2026, then the due date starts from February 1st 2026. However, what they have said is the last day to file an appeal for all these tranches together is the 31st of June 2026. So the first tranche that we saw, which is if an order has been passed on 31st of January 2022, your appeal filing starts on 24th of September 2025. But that still does not mean that you have to complete your filing by October 2025. You have time till filing till 31st or 30th of June 2026. That's the end date by which you have to ensure that you have filed the appeals. If not, then things get more complicated. They've given sufficient time to everyone to file their appeal.
So the last date, irrespective of anything, last date is
Yes.
30th June 2025.
Yes.
Now, filing appeal comes at a cost, right? There has to be some pre-deposit. There has to be some filing fees that has been prescribed from the GSTAT. Can you give viewers some light on that?
Okay, so when it comes to filing an appeal before the tribunal, there are two monetary aspects involved. The first is filing fee. So there is a filing fee of 1,000 rupees per 1 lakh of demand of tax or penalty. So if it's a tax and penalty demand, you look at only the tax amount. If it's only a penalty demand, then you look at the penalty amount. For each 1 lakh rupees or a part thereof, you have to pay a fee of rupees 1,000 for filing an appeal before the tribunal. But this is capped at rupees 25,000. The second most important aspect is that you have to pay a pre-deposit before filing an appeal. So at the first appellate level also, if you are filing an appeal, you have to pay 10% as pre-deposit of tax or penalty in case where the demand is only of penalty. If it's tax and penalty, you pay 10% of the tax amount. Now when you are filing an appeal before the tribunal, there is an additional 10% of pre-deposit that you have to make. So say for example, you had a demand of say 10 lakhs, then the filing fee would be 10,000 rupees. You have to pay a pre-deposit of 1 lakh when you filed the first appeal. And let's say the entire demand was confirmed at the first appellate level, and now you are going at the tribunal, you pay another 1 lakh as a pre-deposit. Only then you will be able to file the appeal, or it's only then the tribunal would be hearing your appeal.
Okay, got it. So there is a cost minded to it. Now I filed it. It is 30th June. I filed it before it. I have paid the pre-deposit. I've done everything. What is the time limit for disposal of my appeal, right? There is one specific line mentioned in the Act that the AT, that is the Appellate Tribunal, shall, as far as possible, hear and decide every appeal within a period of 1 year from the date on which it is filed. And we are already seeing that there are already 5 lakh matters pending to be filed before GSTAT. Do you think that this timeline would in any case be followed by the Appellate Tribunal?
Interesting question, Hardik. In fact, that is where the as far as possible comes in. Similar sort of provisions were available or were there in the similar sort of provisions were there in the previous law as well. However, these timelines would never be followed, specifically when the GST Appellate Tribunal has come after a period of, I would not say 8 years, because in the first year there actually wouldn't have been any litigation, but at least it has come after a delay of 7 long years. And as you mentioned, there's a lakhs of appeals pending to be filed. As you said, there are lakhs of appeals pending to be filed. So what would happen is people would file their appeals on the basis of the tranches that have been given. The registry would look at these appeals. If at all there is any defect in the appeal, this would be communicated to the taxpayer or the appellant. That would be rectified, and then it would be listed before the tribunal. Again, there are two ways in which appeals get listed. One is before the single member and one is before a division bench. A division bench is two tribunal members sit across to pass a judgment. In cases which involve a difference of opinion between the two members, or let's say there is a conflicting decision of another tribunal, etc., it goes to a larger bench, which ideally is a 3-member bench, and normally the third person is either the president of the tribunal himself or herself, or a person appointed, or one of the members appointed by him. What happens is, if the volume of your appeal, the volume of demand is on a lower side based on the prescribed limits, then it goes to the single member. And because in case of single member there is only one person sitting, the entire batch gets divided between two people, and the appeal disposal is faster. When it is the amount is above the prescribed limits, or it involves an interpretation or a classification issue, in those cases, irrespective of amount, the law says that the appeal has to go before the division bench. Now, because that goes to a division bench, the matters which have been listed before the division bench would get disposed of not as fast as these might have been disposed of before a single member bench. Having said that, we are all aware about the pendency. So the 1 year which has been mentioned in the law doesn't seem likely to be followed. In fact, I'll be happy if they are able to dispose the first tranche of the appeals that have been filed between September 24th, 2025, 24th September 2025 till 31st of October 2025. The first tranche, that is, if that itself is properly disposed across the country in the first year, I'll be more than happy.
Correct. That seems to be not achievable currently. And as you quoted, there are many benches, right? Principal bench in New Delhi, then there are state bench, as you said, Rajkot, Ahmedabad. I, as a taxpayer, how do I determine that I need to approach which bench, or to which bench do I need to file my appeal online?
So one thing one has to understand is that the state benches will also will have members nominated by the central government as well as the members nominated by the state government. So a bench in a state would comprise of members from the state nominated by the state government as well as central government. So in order to ensure that there is a transparency and consistency in case of place of supply disputes, because the place of supply dispute happens when you have paid the tax, but the problem to determine is whether this tax ought to have gone to a particular state, say for example either Gujarat or Maharashtra. So whether the revenue belongs to Gujarat or Maharashtra should be heard by which bench? The answer is not that simple, right? So in case where the matter pertains to a place of supply dispute, where a question has been raised on what is the place of supply of the matter, then it goes to the principal bench. All other cases go to the state benches. However, if there is any matter where there is a conflict between the decisions of two different benches, the principal bench might again take the matter into their hands and pass a decision.
Correct. So if there is a case wherein I have multiple issues, right? There is a ITC disallowance, there is a POS allowance, there is another Rule 4243 reversal is needed. So in that case, where do I need to approach? Because as you said, for POS, so is that I have to split my appeal, that for POS I have to go to a principal bench and for others I have to go to a state bench, or it is directly going to the principal since POS is involved?
So again, I mean, logically one will not be in a position to, bifurcate matters if it pertains to a single order, right? If you are challenging one order which has multiple issues, like you said, Rule 4243 reversal, or probably time of supply issue along with a place of supply issue, if the issue ought to have been, if there is at least one issue which ought to have been dealt by the principal bench, then irrespective of how many issues you have in your order and what is the quantum of those issues, everything goes to the principal bench only. That particular order, if it has a place of supply issue, or if it has any issue where the other benches are conflicting, then it goes to the principal bench only.
Okay. And going forward with the same example, now I do not have a place of supply issue, right? The main issue are ITC disallowance 17.5 and Rule 4243. In that case, how do I determine my bench?
Simple. Whatever registration you have, so let's say you have a registration in Gujarat, there was a notice issued to you, there was an order passed, you might have filed an appeal before the Gujarat Appellate Authority only based on your jurisdiction, whether it's central or state. Now you want to appeal before the GST Appellate Tribunal. It goes in the same state. Of course, there are different cities where are different benches situated. For example, there is a bench in Surat, there is a bench in Rajkot, and there is a bench in Ahmedabad. Which bench do you go across the city? There is a very clear bifurcation given under the rules, and it has very clearly stated as to which city goes where. So cities naturally around Ahmedabad would go into Ahmedabad, and cities towards the south of Gujarat would go towards Surat, so on and so forth. That's how it goes.
Same example. Now I operate into multiple states, right? I have in Maharashtra, I have in Karnataka, I have in Gujarat. All the three locations have the same issue, which is pertaining to, let's say, reversal under Rule 42 and 43, and also ITC disallowance. So, do I have to file three separate appeals, or is there any option or another remedy prescribed under the law?
Wonderful question. So, ideally, because you have three different registrations and there are three different orders passed in different states, you have to file three separate appeals before those three separate tribunals in three different states. However, the law does contain that if the issue is common, the president of the tribunal has a power to club this and list it before the principal bench. So if at all the matter is such that you cannot afford to, or not worth fighting in three different states. So if at all there is an issue which is actually common and doesn't make sense to fight it separately in three different courts together, you can ask your counsel to approach the president, and get all these three issues clubbed and be heard by the principal bench. But again, the principal bench is anyways going to be overloaded with a lot of matters themselves. So this might delay the result a little bit. But still, if there are three different benches dealing with the same issues, it definitely makes sense to approach the president and get it clubbed at the principal bench.
Correct. That would help anyone. And last question. So, how are the transactions related to imports deal? Well, if there is any transaction pertaining to import which has been dispute or which has been the part of my dispute, which bench does it go to?
Now, that's again a very interesting question. But again, the fundamental rule that you have to follow is whether the issue pertains to a place of supply or not, whether it's an interstate or intrastate, and if it's an interstate, which state the place of supply belongs to. As simple as that. If that is the question, then it by default goes to the principal bench. In all other cases, it goes to the state bench only.
Correct. Thanks, Tapas. So this was really helpful. Quick recap for everyone: where to appeal GSTAT after first tribunal and before High Court. Deadline 3 months. It would start from 1st April 2026, but for now the deadline is 30th June 2026. Cost 10% pre-deposit and filing fees, which is capped at 25,000. Process, it would be e-filing on the GSTAT portal, which is now operationalized, and user manual is also available. In the bench selection, if it is POS, then it is a no-brainer. Go to the principal bench. If any other, then go to the respective state bench. Hope this was helpful. If you have any further question, reach out to us on the email mentioned below. Thank you.